Are you ready for a wild ride? I'm Alexis Artin, and I invite you to strap in because this is more than a podcast. This is Look at Me Now. Whoop, whoop. I am so psyched because today I am talking to my three best friends. This is Natalie, Amy, and Molly on here with me for Look at Me Now. Holy smokes. This is so exciting. I have held a dream of all of us having the opportunity to sit down together and let the world experience the magic of my closest friends and I when we get together. And somehow or other, by God, we've done it. At least
by George.
At least, you know, there's the four of us. There are a couple others that
2 others missing
that could be here and would definitely contribute. But this is some hardcore seriousness here, and I'm
I'll say
fucking psyched.
And we're going to be real serious.
It's going to get real serious.
Yeah.
It's going to get real serious.
Probably get real goofy too.
And it's gonna go all over the place, and we're still going to hold the container of, holding each other in love and in grace wherever it goes. So I feel like there's so much to jump into, but I first feel like I need to lay the land because as well as I know each of you, other people are being introduced to you for the first time. So I will say that I'm here with my beloved Natalie. Natalie is a life coach and a mom of 3, and we refer to her lovingly as Goof or as Mouse, and it is or Nat,
Shaky Ankle,
Shaky Ankle. We've got all the nicknames for each other, and just from that, I think you're getting a glimpse into all that is Natalie. Then we have Amy. Amy is, these were all like, they were in my wedding party. They were, I've known these women for almost 30 years.
I think we've all known each other longer period of our lives than we haven't. Like
we're definitely at that point.
Sure.
We're definitely at that point.
Yeah.
Amy is Miss Amy Mencia. So she and I have worked together. You may have heard or will hear my episode with her husband, Carlos, who I worked with for a long time, and Amy. So we have worked together. We have been best friends. We met in college. We have traveled the world together. There's just so much to say about Amy, but we'll let the storytelling evolve so that you can experience all of that. And then next to her is the other tall drink of water here is Molly, Amy's sister. And even though they were born a few years apart, I still consider them twins.
A year and a half.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that Amy is a wardrobe stylist as well as a mother of 2. And Molly is a therapist and a dating coach. And she has been, for me, a really personal inspiration coming into the world of service, of helping, of coaching, of, becoming and being a guiding light for myself and for others. And, so in that way, she is kind of not just a friend, but a guru, a mentor.
Well,
she is. I mean, everybody needs an ML in her life. So that's one of her nicknames right there. So anyway, you get a sense of who and what I'm sitting with here in a very scratch of the surface kind of way, but let's dive a little deeper. One of the things that we do here on Look at Me Now is we take a look back at the past before we move into the present and then into the future. And so looking at the past, there are no better 3 people for me to do that with in my life because these women have seen it all. They have seen it all, for better or for worse. I mean, it really, sometimes your friendships can feel more like a marriage than an actual marriage. It's quite something.
Minus the sex.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, case in point, Molly was actually the person in the room when I conceived my second child. My husband wasn't even there.
Yes, and I was there holding her hand.
That's right. I did IVF.
We had an interesting
That
sexual
is
experience, I guess.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about that sort of bridges the gap between the past and the present is, I mean, as anybody that has, tuned into my world knows, I had a cancer diagnosis and have since had surgery and gone through treatments, and I'm coming out the other side of that.
So we can just cheers to that.
Well, yes, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. I will drink to that.
Making it through a really...
Maybe I need something stronger in this cup than just water, but that's fine. That's fine. That's for after we wrap the podcast.
That's a big deal that you have that behind you like that.
It absolutely is. But one of the things that I envisioned us talking about when I got together this opportunity for us to all be in a room together for an hour, which is very exciting and seems like a massive feat.
Without kids.
And without children. Wow.
Or dogs.
Is this concept of, if I had that diagnosis handed to me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, not a lot of people knew me as well back then as you do, or you did. And I think that we could all agree that had I gotten that diagnosis 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that this ship would have been sinking rapidly.
Totally
and
different.
I would have pulled everybody willing to go down with me.
I was going to say we all would have.
Anybody that was susceptible to going down with me, I would have grabbed on and dragged them down into my
Anybody
sinkhole.
with or without a life jacket.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And on that note, something that's kind of connected to the past, as you're talking about, that I was thinking about, and whether we spend time on this or not, is just that I think one of the really beautiful things about our beginning, the four of us and the rest of us girls together, is that we were all really young, and Amy and I were a little bit older than the rest of the group. And it's really sweet for me to look back on the age and maturity of Alexis and the age and maturity of Natalie. And because they were kind of like our little sisters, and we were all experiencing life together.
Yeah.
And there were just some really cute, sweet moments. And I feel like in some ways, Amy kind of mothered you two more so. I was working a lot, and there was just some sweet, amazing, incredible, hilarious stories that if we could talk out for hours just on that. And going back to, had this diagnosis happened to you during that time, it would have been not only a tidal wave, but it would have been the, maybe tidal wave is the word.
Tsunami.
When you think a tsunami that just it would have taken you over and everything in its wake, primarily because you didn't know how else to maybe ride the waves, process the information. And it also speaks to not only maturity, of course, in our early 20s, who are we compared to the life experience, but where you've come. Like, again, looking at you now, like where you've come and how you've weathered this.
Look at you now.
Yeah, in just such a powerful way. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really, really does. And I think that we can all resonate with that on some level. None of us get through life without challenge. I mean, it is inherent.
That's the point. I mean,
it is a guarantee. And it's about not only the tools that you have when that challenge comes your way, or the resources that you have, but it is, in my belief, the support or the mirrors of support that you have around you, and who is your sphere of influence, who are your circle of friends. And it is very easy to see yourself a certain way when you're reflected back by the people closest to you in a particular light, versus if you're exposed perhaps to a different reflection in somebody, in a different sphere of influence. It can look very different.
Yeah.
And we would have showed up differently, of course, for you too. Like, you were giving the examples of things that came up for either one of you as our like little adopted little sisters, and how that like ripple or tidal wave effect would like affect me, or if something would happen to one of you two, I would, because I was on the road a lot at that time, and so I was like, well, they have something, or, they're like, you didn't always love being like alone, like, you know, you loved. And so, and then you would, you know, stay with me a lot. And so
Natalie would be at the house or, you know, the apartment for days on end. And Lex would do it too.
Right. And so for me, like it was so, you know, because we basically grew up in a sorority, right? With our mom and 4 sisters. So for me, it was just like normal and came naturally. And I think that, you know, I just wanted to be there for you. Because number one, of course, we were so close and we had so much fun. But I just wanted to be there for you in every possible way, which is like amazing. And then, of course, though, like now in hindsight, you know, we've all had to learn that we have certain responsibilities. We can't always do exactly what we want to do, right?
Especially as mothers, that you guys are all amazing.
Oh, right.
Moms.
I mean, this is just forced us.
Before we had moms, like I know that this wasn't ideal for you. The Ned was, you know, traveling so much, but it couldn't have been at a better time in our life than Ned was traveling, and I got to sleep there all the time.
I know.
Natalie was in the bed with Amy,
and I was always freezing in her room, like freezing.
We always had the AC really high.
You always had the AC really high. I was cold, and it was like perfect. Lex and I were always there. Before Lex, I was always there.
It was
Molly
like
and
one
Kelly
or the
were
other
coming
or
in
both, and we were, you know, going out in the Ford, the black Ford Explorer Sport.
Or your convertible.
Or the Spider.
Yeah,
or the Spider.
Amy had a
Spider
Mitsubishi
convertible.
Spider convertible.
And we drive up and down on Sunset.
Right.
And it was like the best time of my life.
Yeah.
It really was like, especially for Amy and Ned, as committed as they were early on, it was like this great period of her life where when she wasn't on the road with him, she was having like this college young girl going out experience. And not that she was like partying and dating or anything, because she wasn't. But she
was partying. She just wasn't dating.
She just wasn't dating.
Like having
fun. Be clear.
And we were all
quality girl time.
Yeah.
It was
but
like,
also like just fun.
it's like
party
for
days.
us growing up, but now we're the big sisters, which is interesting because we were always the little sisters, like the little girls, like
Compared
not
to our
the
two
little
older
girls,
sisters.
That just the big girls can, you know, go to Disneyland for a second day.
But not the little girls.
But not the little girls.
stay
because
home and
the
take a
parents
nap.
aren't going, but the little girls will be here with us. And so now it's like, I never thought about it that way. We finally got to be the big sisters. Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, as Nat, as you said, and maybe you want to just add to it, just was some of the best times of our lives. In those years of just like
Absolutely.
bar scene,
Silly.
party scene.
The egg sandwiches.
What?
The egg sandwich.
No, I think of
Jay's. Was it Jay's?
Yeah,
Jay's.
Jay
Jay's
Burger,
Jay's
which
in Silver Lake,
Silver
egg
Lake,
sandwich
Tombstone.
at
I think they
2
tried to
a.m.
save it.
Yeah.
I mean, the
number
for me,
4
most
Jack
of the
in the
memories-
Box.
Jack in the Box.
Yeah,
was
number
the way
4.
most nights ended.
The crispy chicken sandwich.
Yeah, or maybe as we came up the other day, what about the banana cream cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory that we got for every single person's birthday?
An all-time favorite.
You started
banana cream pie from Montana. 17th Street Cafe.
I
You and
don't-
I were obsessed with it from Santa Monica College.
Yes,
we would
and
go
you
have
guys would
dinners
go.
there and have that every
banana
single-
cream pie.
Yes.
Don't fail us now. Where's the memory?
Do you remember
have
that?
such
I remember
good
you guys
memory.
would go and eat
No,
there. Yeah.
okay.
We'd share
So
the pasta.
for anybody
Pasta, I
that
remember.
is getting a glimpse into this operation, Natalie is our resident foodie.
A glimpse into the operation.
And we also used to call her the food police because
She
when we
keeps
would sit
track
down
of.
and share a
I still
meal,
am.
she was tracking whether or not you were consuming enough
Yeah.
of that cookie pie.
Well, how many bites you had? Well, did you hear just now? She said that banana cream pie. And I was like, wait, what? And she goes, you have the best memory. What do you mean?
I mean,
if it involves
raise
food-
your hand out there if you have a friend that is so into food
They
that
blow
they
the
will
whistle.
take you down with them.
Yeah. They'll blow the whistle on you.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's like we didn't notice it right away. It was like it seemed like a year. We knew that she was very particular about what we were ordering. She'd look at the menus. She knew ahead of time.
We're always
Then all of a sudden
sharing.
we're like, do you realize she'll be food police out of nowhere? We're having some other conversation, and it would be like, Amy, why aren't you eating more of that salad?
She'd
And
be like,
Amy
are
had,
you kidding
like
me?
Amy had failed on the job somehow. And we're like,
Or she just, what, you don't like
and then you had
it?
to give her
Or
an excuse. You'd explain.
you'd have to say something like, well, I mean, I had more of that appetizer. Like,
why am I doing this?
I mean, would be no such thing as like, well, I'm not that hungry. No.
That's not an option.
No, and no. And also no to me. Oh, I'm saving room for dessert. Like, no.
And to be fair, the food police has nothing to do with calories or how much you're consuming or shouldn't consume. No,
it's about indulging.
It's about, are you indulging at the same rate that I am? Yeah. Are you loving this as much as I am? And you should be, because we all have the same taste.
Why are you holding back?
And if you aren't, there is a big problem.
Like, what's wrong with you?
Let's talk about it.
Something's wrong.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Maybe that led you into your becoming a coach and a therapist.
The food.
No, the fact that you're like, let's talk about it. Why are you not eating? That's, I think, where it started.
What's wrong with that pasta or banana cream pie that you don't remember?
Or chocolate chip cookie pie? No, I think that's where
Amy,
it started.
I think you pose a really good question, because I actually, I don't know that I actually ever got like a clear, consistent, concise understanding of where and when and how did the light switch go on, Natalie, for you of I want to be a coach?
I think it has. Okay.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
When I was in New York, and Molly and Amy introduced me to Barb, because I was having such a hard time living away from everyone.
And you were having so much fun, I thought.
Not at first.
I was
she was
so
struggling.
depressed. I cried every night. I was alone. I was scared.
How old were you when you moved to New York?
25.
Yeah.
It was the first time I went out of the house.
Yeah, like moved out.
My brother Andy was here.
Was very
like all my friends. It was a shock to my system.
It was a very brave. Yeah. Very, especially for you.
And I didn't feel, and I hated my job. My job was terrible. I was just finishing I just finished MFD, my degree. And instead of going into therapy, I went into diamonds. And I felt like
diamond watches, everybody.
Like so superficial and cold, and I hated where I was working. Everything was bad at that moment.
You didn't have really any friends. I mean,
didn't have any friends. I met Ron right away, but I didn't have my girlfriends, didn't have my parents there, didn't have Andy.
That was a big time of growth for you.
And I remember Molly said to me, "You should call Barb. Just talk to her."
And so for those of you that don't know, because this is like shorthand language for us, Barb is a coach and an incredible life coach who's been in the game for like 30 years and has a spiritual master's from Santa Monica University, but she's coached all of us at one point or another. She still coaches me.
Still coaches Molly. But she started with Molly.
That's right.
How long ago? 20? So how many years ago?
I found Barb in, I think it was 2002. And then we started working later that year.
Gosh, she has really been with you for your entire professional life. Right. Yeah. And as well as like your professional journey and how you ended up even doing what you're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that I had this kind of spiritual awakening, and I knew I wanted to become a therapist or a coach. And I took the therapist route. I don't know about that. And Barb walked with me the whole way through, applying to grad school and going through that process and showing up for myself primarily, right? To get the grades I wanted to get that I'd never really applied myself before in undergrad and all of that. And so to Natalie's point, just in general, it's really kind of funny because the four of us cannot come together and sit here without Barb being part of the conversation. So I know she's going to love listening to this.
She's been part of the journey and has worked with, we could make an index of the family and the people that we've sent.
But Nat, just to go back to, so it was in your work with Barb and the changes?
Honestly, Barb changed my life at that point.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it was the first time I worked with someone on the phone. I didn't have to meet a therapist. I was able to do it from my bed.
You had some therapy?
I worked with a therapist in LA, but I couldn't do it on the... Back then, you weren't doing it on the phone or Zoom.
Right.
It was in person. So, and it was the first time that I worked with someone who helped me look forward rather than look in the past. So it was a coach, my experience. And I remember she helped me come out of my, depression in New York, my difficulty in working with my uncle, my relationship with Ron, my, making friends, new friends, letting go of the fact that I have the best friends in LA and I don't want to make new friends, but actually opening up and becoming friends with the girls in New York.
You're right. That was a massive transition.
She really changed my whole outlook on life when I was in New York. And because she did that, I remember thinking on like back to my MFT degree, and I was like, I want to be a coach. I want to do the same thing Barb did for me, for other people, and help them see that the future can look different. Totally. You don't have to be stuck in this painful space that you think you have no way out.
Yeah.
And when I got out of my job, because she helped me write a letter to my uncle and speak my truth, and I can't believe I honestly can't believe I did that. That's when I realized, oh, you do have the power. You hold the power to change your life.
Oh my God.
Like it's up to you.
You do have options. You do have choices. They may be difficult choices or not the choices that feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
But you have the choice not to stay at this job that makes you have anxiety every day. You have the choice to experience New York in a way that will leave memories forever. You know, like you don't have to hate New York. You can like New York and still love your friends in LA, and they can come visit, and you know.
It can all happen.
You can write. You can. There's a canvas, and you can create what you want.
Yes.
Make the rules.
Create the life you want. That's the workshop that I ended up working with Barb on in New York, you know, and on creating the life that I want and helping other women in New York create the life that they want.
Which is what you had done. You had learned to do that. And so now you wanted.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that. It's like almost drawing the distinction between coaching and therapy, right? And it's also interesting that you know, on the tail end of your therapy degree, after, you know, achieving that, and you being a full-blown therapist, both found yourself really leaning in the coaching direction versus the therapy direction, although you still do participate and practice therapeutically. There's a huge lean for you into the coaching space because there is a very different focus.
Yeah, that's where my heart really lives. And I've found like the sweet spot where there's a blend to it without getting, there's a lot of technical and there's some legal stuff. And when I work as a coach, I get to blend all of my therapeutic training with all these gifts of coaching, with action steps and setting goals and accountability and really showing up for ourselves in a way that is going to change our lives, right? And to have that experience, like as you said, Nat, when you realize like, wait, I do have the power to leave this job that I was scared to death of, or I'm so, you know, I'm just going to be here for the rest of my life.
Like I do have a choice.
Yeah. So, and all of us have grown so much because not only have we all worked with Barb, we've all taken deep dives into our own spirits and hearts and heads and, journeys, and pasts. And I think we are all not only better for it, but so blessed by it. And that's what we continue to share with each other and how we support each other, share with our children.
Our friendship.
And I mean, Lex, maybe you want to talk about your journey with Barb and what also really helped to influence how you have navigated this journey with cancer.
Well, actually, what's interesting is as you asked me that question, the very first thing that popped up is Steen, good old Christine.
Oh, yes. And so just if we go back in those chapters, it's like she's part of that early chapter of the community that you had found and people that, you know, we became and still are, but obviously she's moved away.
Right. She was definitely one of the first people or influences for me. Her, obviously Molly and you gals, but
and I met
like outside.
I met
beyond
Christine.
that.
Yeah, Christine was part of my life from
there were two influences. One was Angie and the other was Christine.
Wow.
And what I will say is that there was a very dark period in my life. I've had several dark periods in my life, right? Whether that is, you know, being really young and my aunt and uncle dying in the plane crash, or whether that's being in an abusive relationship, or whether that's being in a mass amount of debt, or, you know, carving myself up on plastic surgery tables, or doing drugs and drinking,
Lordy.
I mean, you name it, right? Yeah. I've run the gamut of my peaks and my valleys, right? But there was one particular breakup, and this actually was while I was working with Ned, aka Carlos Mencia, Amy's husband. I was working with him, and I also at the same time happened to be dating somebody long distance named Angelo. And let's give a round of applause to Angelo, ladies.
Oh my God.
Angelo.
It's for all the gifts.
It's all the people that come in our paths that serve us in deep ways.
Yeah,
even
swift
in the
one.
pain. Even
And
Swift one,
by
we
the
like
way,
to
I
call
mean,
him.
you had multiple long distance relationships
sure
that I
did.
felt like were very
And isn't that
impactful.
an insight into who I am? I have got a lot of long distance relationships.
Although, side note, as we all know, she's in probably one of the most solid marriages I've ever been aware of. All these girls have really solid, beautiful marriages. But if we get into the P. Diddy, Paul, we'll never stop talking talking. So this is a great contrast.
We'll have another podcast.
We'll talk about
Angelo now.
Okay. Stop on the P. Diddy.
In any event, Angelo and I did not have the swiftest breakup. We'll put it that way.
It was,
but the long story short of the Angelo journey
and
is
the Steen and the Angie. Not to get anything mixed up.
Great job.
And this is a side note that I'm just going to park here, and then we're going to just move right on from it. But Angelo was a very, very, very good-looking individual.
Yeah, he
gave Brad Pitt a run for his money.
He was
and yet
quite a
I had
looker.
no sexual chemistry with him. And I find that so interesting. But this is really to let anybody listening know that like love and romance and chemistry and all of those things are you can't shove it in a box, and call Molly if you want to work that out for yourself. But anyway, because she is a dating coach and she's real damn good at it. But I'm just parking that and moving on. So anyway, Angelo, I think in part because for me, the sexual chemistry wasn't there and we were long distance.
I think it was very confusing for you.
He ended up going outside of the relationship and, having some fun with some other ladies. And, I don't even know that I knew that at first.
Right. I was just going to say
it was I had taken all these like really cool photos, sexy photos, and sent them to him either for his birthday or Valentine's Day or something.
You were trying to kind of spark up
something.
Chemistry.
By the way, this is pre-digital photos, so this is
Absolutely.
hard copy photos
this is
in
back
the mail.
in the old days.
Oh yeah, this was legit.
Back in
there were
olden
negatives.
days.
There were negatives involved in this.
Oh my God.
And you made some gorgeous.
We're not
I did. I made like an art piece out of it and everything.
Framed it.
Oh, she really did.
I mean, it was a lot of money to send that across the country to package it safely.
I wish we had
this guy gets this. I mean, if I don't say so myself,
that was a dark day. I remember that.
Exotic, special
Sexy
material
package
for me in the mail. And I have to track that motherfucker down.
Because he's not responding.
To see if he has
even got it.
said package.
Rather than him calling like, oh my gosh, like I can't.
No,
yeah.
yes.
You were did it arrive?
Did you get it? And he's, finally I get on the phone with him and he's, oh yeah, I got it. And I said, well, did you like it? He's like, well, what do you expect me to do? Hang it in my house?
Oh my God.
And at that point I was like, just man up and say what you have to say.
That's right. Man up.
Man up. I said it. Just
man
called
up.
him out. Man up. And he did. He finally said, we're done. I'm seeing somebody else. We're done. And of course, I was devastated and felt like I had the wind kicked out of me.
Oh. Yeah.
And at the time, Ned was in town and we were filming Might Have Been Sia, and he was also like performing locally. And so one night, like right after that happened, and I swear I was like, felt almost suicidal.
You were devastated.
I was devastated.
That you didn't have that sexual chemistry with him. You were just like, felt so, of course, rejected.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had invested a lot in the relationship. And even though there were question marks around it, like let's at least have some respect for one another being in a relationship. And we had been through a lot together in our relationship. So anywho, I was at a performance that Ned was having local, and our mutual friend Christine happened to be there. I remember
Brea, right? I think it was Brea.
And I remember that night I was just on one. I was in my feelings and letting anybody who would listen know about it. And I think it was that night
you were ranting,
I got jacked up even more because somebody let it slip to me that he had now moved in with this woman. Clearly it had been hotter and heavier than I even knew.
It was somebody there that knew. No, none of us.
The long distance is he was in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so cut to, I felt like not only had a knife gone into my back, but now it was being twisted and it was like
devastated.
Done in public. And I felt so much shame and all the things. And I went into full-blown meltdown right then, right there at the show.
Were we in front of the club? Was it?
Yes, we were standing out on the sidewalk.
And I think Christine came to the show.
And I had a full meltdown. And I was as unprofessional gets. Mind you, I was there working. I'm having a full meltdown on the sidewalk.
You couldn't help it.
And I just remember Christine coming over to me, and there was a group of people standing around. And Christine looked at me and she said, "You spoiled brat." She said, "You are lacking gratitude, my love. You need to turn this little girl act around, and you need to get your big girl panties on, right? And you need to check yourself, because what just happened was a gift to you. And not only that, like, you're giving all your power away. You're not standing in it at all.
You're just wounded and laying on the side.
You are just this little gimme girl that when she doesn't get what she wants, throws a tantrum. Like, check
she
it,
said all
sister.
of that. I mean, I remember she
gave it to you
so many
She
words.
gave it to me straight.
Something about a gratitude journal, though. I remember.
She said, you need to start writing down every day what you're grateful for. I mean, she really just like put the press on me.
Yeah.
Full court press.
If you want it straight, you will get it from Christine. And she's also been part of our own spiritual journey.
Wonderful person.
A wonderful, amazing person.
Well,
a
to this
sister
day,
to all of us. Like a
she
big
introduced
sister.
us to Carrie and True Insight.
Yeah,
you know,
to this
Nina.
day, girls, I swear to God, the reason that I am alive today is because of that woman. Because I tell you, there have been so many times in my life that I've actually been suicidal. And I if I hadn't in that moment been catapulted on a new path from that sort of like tough love awakening, Lord knows where I would be.
And it wasn't very smooth. You were upset.
I was janked.
I don't remember for months and months. I remember you I don't think you were not a big fan of hers.
No, I wasn't. But it's
I remember her saying to me, I told Lex that I think she needs to start writing in a gratitude journal. And I was like,
and this is the evidence of tough love, and especially for
and shining light on a shadow, which is exactly what she did.
I mean,
and that was maybe the first step to you stepping out of when I was talking about like those early years of first living in LA.
Yes,
all of our fun and adventures, and like
I was just trying to make
girl.
everything better. Like,
yeah, but like the young girl, little sister kind of energy. That was a lot that was happening, and it was who you were at the time, and part of it was age, and part of it was probably just ultimately those were all expressions on how you would find love by you being in that space, because you didn't, that's just how it was.
Right.
You would get more support or more attention or more love and all those things, and then to have somebody just shake the whole thing up and
like
turn it on
the
its
complete
head.
opposite of what you were getting or I was doing, as the like big sister, like, how do I make this better? It's like you moving to New York, the experience you had there, you were not going to, that wasn't going to happen on Edgecliff or in San Juan.
Well, then Angie Baki came into the picture.
Good friend of Molly's.
Another dear friend of Molly's that they grew up with.
We've got Barb.
And this was right around the time that Angie Baki was living with you guys, because she had just lost her 8-month-old infant
child.
And had her husband leave all at the same time.
Yeah. I mean,
and
beyond.
the fact that she was still standing after that was something that was really hard for me to get my head around. And I thought, well, wow, if she can stand on 2 feet and put one foot in front of the other and function, given the challenge that she just overcame, Lord knows I can take a hit from a guy that I wasn't even supposed to be with.
And wasn't really attracted to.
A guy named Swift One.
And a woman
named by Jenny.
And a woman who really was doing this because she genuinely cared and saw another way. So I started my journey with a recommended book from Angie, because I said, how do I do this? How do I turn this around? How do I do what you're doing, which is overcome these challenges that seem insurmountable? And so she recommended to me the book Conversations with God.
Neil Donald Walsh.
That's right. And after that
from
book,
Oregon.
Yeah, the guy's actually from Oregon.
I was set on my path and I never looked back.
Another thing I just want to mention, since you Lex talked about these two important players, is that phrase. I think it's the Dalai Lama talks about divine friends. I believe that's what it is, divine friendships. And how these are people who come into our lives that maybe, activate us, who challenge us, who are people who are like, this happened and they were shitty and crappy to me, or that happened.
Right.
And yet there was a reason, if you look at life path or karma or however you want to see it, like as much as Christine shook you up, there was a truth that you couldn't get away from. And as much as you and Angie have had your own journey as well, which are, it's a whole different story. Right. She also gifted you something that helped you ultimately step into your own awakening.
It's so true.
And those are divine friends. And you've had time with them and life has moved on and you cherish them. And I am in touch with both of those women who I love dearly. And they all
I am still in touch with Christine.
Yeah.
Yes. And I adore her. And I thank her all the time.
Yeah.
For being, that divine friend or that angel.
It was it's a gift, and we never know for sure when people come into our lives what it's going to lead to, or especially when it's a very uncomfortable and poking.
Well, Natalie and I didn't even like each other when we first met. And now she's like the closest thing to a sister that I could have. It's really
lived
funny.
together in West LA for a while.
We sure did.
Gosh, it's great, but that was when you
moved to the
initially met,
valley.
but then there were a couple months after that something happened and you each got triggered and you were just like, whatever. And I remember I was like, but it's fine. It's all good.
Oh my gosh.
It's fine.
I think because we are, in a lot of ways, we are so alike that sometimes it's like birds of a feather flock together. And other times it's like, you better fly out of here, fucking bird.
Right.
But
Get outta here.
But what's so interesting is some ways you're very, very different, but it's like maybe the foundation, or there's enough similarities
that's a huge, when I think about how, as much as Nat was at our house, late 90s, early 2000s, and then Amy and Ned bought their first house and they moved to Encino, and I wasn't working, so I moved with them.
Well, you didn't. It had nothing to do with you not working. I don't think we would have allowed you not to.
Okay, maybe
kidnapped her, sort of.
Anyway, and
she got away since.
Natalie was living on the west side, but didn't want to be at home with her parents and her brother, and so Lex is living in West LA, and so Nat was like, that's what those girls were doing.
And Lex and I would be at Blockbuster Videos on Friday nights.
Oh my gosh. Videos. Oh my
Renting movies,
That's
candy,
you guys.
chips.
That makes me feel like we're like 90 or something.
I know it does.
Okay, this is how into the intertwined little world and connection you guys had. I will never forget you guys saying, she had made a few trips. We all had to Vegas, but you saying, oh, for New Year, because of course at that age, New Year's for us was like your wedding day, but to party. And I'll never forget Natalie saying, we're going to Vegas and we're going to a Stevie Nicks concert or whatever. And I'm like,
oh, snippity snap.
Okay, but if you know Natalie,
where are you going?
Look at her face. There is nothing
about Natalie that says Stevie Nicks.
No, she'd like the Lex part.
And that'd be like me saying, I'm going to go to Vegas for New Year's and we're going to a Garth Brooks concert or not, or like, it's like, what?
Actually, Natalie didn't even know who Stevie Nicks was.
Yeah, probably didn't.
But Lex
was a huge fan.
So what's the point? So they made this plan, and you're like, okay, they are now way connected. Well, if Natalie's going to Vegas,
that was one of many Vegas trips.
If Lex could talk you into
going to,
and she's particular, like with the food, trips, hotels, like she has a very specific standard.
Even with the shoes she has on, when we walked in here today, Amy's like, you would never have been caught dead in those shoes 20 years ago.
So true. They're great. I mean, they're
fantastic.
Right. But she would have been like, I remember wearing like
but she has healthy boundaries about her boots, about her food, about Stevie Nicks, apparently.
Yeah, she has opinions.
Sure.
And feelings. Sure. But when you said, we're going to go see Stevie Nicks, and I thought, wow, that's a great sign, man.
Lex has gotten into her. Lex has worn off.
And then I remember after the fact, you were kind of like, the music is, it was like,
she doesn't remember. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why she doesn't even remember. Because we had maybe a half an hour of a good time before we were on the floor in the bathroom of the House of Blues in Vegas. And this one was tossing all the cookies.
Oh, and by the way, I don't ever
because drinks.
I don't know of other times.
That's never happened to me.
That's I think the only time. I don't ever.
You have no idea how I had to work it to get us into a vehicle to get out of there and back to the place that we were staying. There were the New Year's Eve. I mean, the taxi line was honestly 3 hours, and I'm holding this barfing girl who can't even stand up straight.
You guys had probably gone to a big dinner with John and some people, and then was it the drinks that made you sick?
It was the drugs.
Molly. I mean, it wasn't food poisoning.
Eve,
it
wasn't food poisoning.
Drunk. I don't get drunk like that.
Well, I will tell you that if I didn't just walk us right up in front of the limo line and say, my friend and I are getting in with you.
Yeah, because we're sick. And she's going to throw up on you.
Listen, I don't want to, show you
These are my tricks, people. Just pass the taxi line, get right to the head of the limo line, and just tell whoever is listening, we're getting in with you.
Oh my gosh.
And we did.
We did. They took us.
You know what? To be honest, of course you did. And I feel like when us girls come together and when it's time to make something happen, we make it happen.
We make it happen.
She got me home.
A reservation.
But there's certain roles that I think we each play, which is a whole nother conversation.
Well, we've got our concierge over here.
Natalie's the concierge.
Well, and at midnight, she did have a big old smooch, but it was with a porcelain bowl.
That's hot.
Oh, that's so bad.
It was hot.
That's super.
It was hot.
And I bet you your lipstick was super perfect at that. Well, maybe not at that point, but it had been because during that time, you were always doing her makeup.
Oh yeah.
And Natalie would be like this, Lex, can you do my eyes or whatever? And she'd sit down because she's not really, into supplies and packing things. Usually I pack
Natalie's like, I don't have a brush.
Yeah, she's like, Amy and Molly. Amy will have everything: a brush, deodorant, toothpaste. Like what do you have? She'd be like, so she'd be like, Lex, can you do my eyes? I can still see you chew. I don't know if it was bubble gum, some kind of gum, and you just kind of sit there. And Lex would literally next thing
be like, why are your eyelids shaking so much? Can you stop?
And you're oily, shaky eyelids. That was always the thing with you.
Oh my God.
Shaky eyelids.
Well, are we surprised? It's like her ankle.
Shaky ankle too.
Can you believe that I'm a mom now and I have to pack for my kid?
Yeah. And
no.
Toothbrush.
No, I know you're a wonderful mother.
No, I'm shocked that I can manage that.
No.
Yeah. I know.
No.
Nat is very good at it. And if we are going on a trip with her and her kids, there's probably a few things Amy will have in store that Natalie will.
And what most people don't know is that I was a makeup artist for a little while. I mean, these girls can attest that I am Forrest Gump of the feminine. I have had every job. I have that's why I'm doing makeup. And that's why I'm over here and I'm planning an event because I had an event planning company once. And then I'm over here and I'm,
doing hair
helping serve food because I was a waitress or a bartender once. And now I'm over here and I'm coaching because I'm a coach.
Skincare.
She's great with hair, makeup, skin.
She
She
is. But this is where you're
multi-passionate creative.
This is where your nickname professional came from,
Sure. Why not?
Lex a professional.
Well, bringing us there's so much past history we can unpack. We'll probably need to do just a series of these together because there's just so much.
We didn't really pack. Get
Trina and Jane in here too. Yeah.
Right. But looking at the present with you girls, it's always so interesting to hear people, I don't know what the word is, but I guess sit in awe or wonder or amazement of our relationships, about how we've been able through all of the years and all of the challenges and all of the shared and unshared experiences that we've had individually, collectively, how we have stayed so committed to our friendships, how we have been able to be the authentic version of women supporting women.
Mm-hmm. For real, yeah.
Through thick and thin.
Yeah, through thick and through thin. And some of the feedback that I always get is it's really not easy to find. It's not really easy to achieve. And how is it that each of us feels that we have done that we have been able to create that and contribute to it and commit to it and stay congruent with it.
It is it's like marriage. It really is. Or probably for sure longer than most marriages.
And I remember when I moved to New York, when I met all those girls there, and you girls started coming to visit me, they could not believe that I have like a group of friends that love me so much that they would actually come to New York and then they would see the way we were with one another. And I remember them always saying, how did this happen? We don't have that. We don't have a group of girls that are around us. Like we have one friend or two friends. It wasn't normal for them to see this. And they just fell in love with the idea, but they never had it.
Yeah.
And I got that through the years from many people that came into my life. Like,
it was
still.
Yeah.
It's so, you're absolutely right. It still is that way. And I think there's a couple contributing factors. And before I share that, and I know we each have stuff to describe around that, I thought this when I saw the Barbie movie, but I've never really said it to us when we've been together. But in Barbie world, when they're like, hey, Barbie, hey, you look beautiful. Hi, friends. Oh, you look, thank you. And like receiving the compliments. But the love that those women were giving to each other is the love. That's what we do. And
that's what we do.
Done.
And that's how we grew up.
And it's how, we grew up that way. Yeah. And then there's this level of, sure, there have been spats, there have been disagreements, there have been moments it's normal, right? And there's still like this underlying foundation around. Part of it is the history, when it started and we continued, and there have been phases. We've had chapters and seasons. We've all stayed connected. And then on top of that, whenever we're together or on the text thread, there's always, or a picture gets sent. It's always about building each other up and loving on each other.
Always.
And
there's nothing. What else
and it's
is
so
there?
genuine. It's so real. It's so like, you look so beautiful in that. You look so hot. Of course you're amazing. Of course you did this. Of course you did that. And like, I know that the competitive nature that can live in women based on survival needs itself, just on, survival of the fittest and all of that. There's lots of psychology behind all of that. The fact that it's almost like we feel safe enough together that we're going to keep loving each other and building each other up, even with our quirks and even
just
with
makes
our goofy
everything
shit.
better and better.
Yeah. And I think that's been a definite through line.
Oh, for sure. Like that in the Barbie movie, that was like the fake Barbie world. Like, oh my gosh, everything's perfect. The toast isn't burned. You have shoes on or whatever. And they're like, hi, Barbie. Hey, Barbie. Right. But that's like how it is.
How they loved each other and affirmed each other is what we do. And it's not fake. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and I even think back to, again, dating our friendships here, but Sex in the City, when that first came out, and all of us feeling like, wow, we're seeing a representation of ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That feels real, that feels authentic, that feels like, yes, I recognize myself in these characters and I recognize my circle of closest friends in what is being represented in that bond. And even through their spats and even through their quarrels, that there was this, unbreakable kinship, right? This supportive group of women that were always going to be there for each other when the chips were down. And it wasn't about being competitive. It was about being cooperative and being
there for each other.
And being compliment.
Being the compliment.
When I drove here today, I was thinking, Lex and I had like a brief chat this week about how life has changed. And, we don't, like, friendships have changed in the sense that we don't see each other as often. We all live in different places.
It takes an act of God for us to get all together, which we're going to be together tomorrow night.
Which sometimes makes you feel like,
it's
God,
discouraging.
It's discouraging. Like, are we not friends anymore? Is it not important enough that we can't make it together for one night or for one lunch? And then you have to remember. So on the way here, I was thinking, we actually are so blessed that we can see each other tomorrow night, because we have to be respectful of the fact that someone lives in Temecula, someone lives in Malibu, someone lives in Encino, Puerto Rico. Like, we're all spread out. We all
don't have babysitters.
Have 3 kids in 3 different schools. Like, it's really hard to make it to things. Really, it's not that I don't want to. It's not that my heart doesn't break that I can't make it to certain things. But we are so lucky that we still have the hotel tomorrow night.
Or that we're here.
Or that we're here right now.
We're here.
Or that Lex and I had breakfast yesterday for her birthday. You know, like or the Molly and I had breakfast 2 weeks ago. And that was so special for me. And it made me realize how badly I need that, you know.
And every single time we're always like, oh my gosh,
why can't we
God,
do it more, you know?
This.
But we have to be mindful of the fact that most of my friends that are married with kids don't have that at all.
Yeah.
They just don't. Not because they don't want to. They just have accepted that they're married with kids and their outings are with their husbands or maybe with one friend that they see. They don't have groups of girls that they go to a hotel with.
Or that they've known for decades.
No, they don't.
Yeah. It's so powerful.
We're really, really lucky.
I think it also speaks to how we maintain our individual relationships with each other too. Sometimes, you know,
that's true.
Even our group get-togethers, like there's often one or two people missing. When we are able to travel together, often we get it all. Everyone comes.
We do our very best.
And we all have our individual relationships, which helps keep the glue.
Well, that's a great point because, you know, what you're speaking to, Natalie, is the idea of we keep a commitment to this because it is a very high priority for us. It is a high value for us. And when you commit to something because it has a high value and a high priority for you, even if it's difficult, you're going to make a point to continue to nurture that, to continue to find ways to cultivate and
Even
nurture and grow that
3 times a year.
That's right.
It's not monthly.
That's right.
I wish it was sometimes.
What, that we
That's
see
right.
each other?
Yeah.
Like as a group.
As a group. Like all of us.
And to Molly's point, I think that there is such a beautiful awareness and acknowledgement of the fact that, you know, oftentimes in women's group, you spoke earlier about the competitive nature and people feeling in survival of the fittest, even like a threat, like, oh, well, if those two get together and I'm not invited,
Right. What's that mean?
then I'm going to insert a story about what that means about them, about me. Then FOMO comes in and all of these different things. And it can start to form cracks in what would otherwise be a cemented bond, right? Versus the trust and the love that lives in this circle is I am not going to be threatened. I'm not going to feel like something is being taken away from me because they are over there, you know, fostering that in my absence.
Right.
If anything, it just solidifies that this group is strong.
Well, so solid through and through.
Right. And being nurtured and being committed to. And it just literally like continues to let this beautiful garden grow that I am a part of.
And that makes me also think about this idea of outsider energy. Like part of it, I think, too, is between the years and how this has all grown, nobody has a story around the fact that like, well, I'm an outsider or I'm not fully part of this. And even though our lives are varied and we live in different areas, you know, around LA, it's still like, I know I'm a part of this. I know I have a place at the table.
Right.
And going back to this idea of roles, like we all play different roles at different times in our lives and especially in these friendships, but they're also not like so locked and static that it's like they only see me this way and I don't really want to be that way anymore. It's just this fun banter.
Or I'm always the fun one or I'm always the whatever. There's flexibility and range.
Permission for that too.
And not to say that we don't sometimes feel like we're missing out, right? Or it's like, oh, wait, you did. Oh,
I wish I could join you girls.
But in a healthy, healthy way. Yeah.
Right. Well, and it really also like for the wider audience that may be listening, there are a lot of people out there that don't feel like they have those established relationships, connections, trustworthy bonds, and loneliness is a really big epidemic right now.
It's a big
this
thing.
is an encouragement to, you know, to anybody out there to say that, you know, if we can create something like this, and granted, we started it a long time ago and there's a lot of history there, but everything starts somewhere. I'm even thinking about like The Golden Bachelor. I just watched the finale last night and, you know, hearing these two seniors in their golden age, like feel like, oh, it was over for them. Like they weren't going to find that kind of love again. Yeah. And they were set in a certain role, a certain place in their life at this stage of the game. And so they were just sort of resigned to that. And them telling the world like, no, like this is just the beginning of our love story. And don't shut the book on what's possible for you in relationships. So, you know, this is a nod to anybody out there that, you know, goes, wow, they have such a great bond. And like, wow, I wish I had something like that. Like, you absolutely can go find your flock.
Anything is possible. Anything and everything is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it really also makes me think, because where we wrap this thing is we forward focus. And it, as you all were talking, it made me think about, especially when Natalie was saying, like, it's hard with our busy lives and our kids and all of these things for us, as committed as we might be to seeing one another. There's obstacles and challenges. And I think that's why we all get so excited to send those memes back and forth to each other of the old ladies that are finally together again, doing all the fun things that they didn't get to do when they were younger because they had a job or they had a relationship or they had a child or they needed to travel. There were things that needed to get done. But finally, when they were able to retire or to create more time and space or whatever it was, that, where they're spending it is with their soul sisters.
The journey
living it
continues.
up.
And that is like the most beautiful thing to look forward to and to know. We all think about, of course, our families, our husbands, our children, our parents, our life path carrying on and what all those adventures will look like. But to think about like all the future memories that we have to make, and for the rest of us that aren't here, it's like that is just the most exciting thing.
It really is. So what I would love to do is actually go around the circle and ask you, if I were to hold a mirror up to you right now, and you were to acknowledge yourself, validate yourself, congratulate yourself for what it is you've overcome and what it is that you are to create in this life, because nobody holds your power but you, right? Look at Me Now is about an inward gaze, not an external gaze, not about proving anything externally or outwardly to anyone but yourself. So if you were to hold a mirror up to yourself right now, and it really were about self-acknowledgement, self-awareness, self-validation, what is it that you would want to say to yourself so that, the future can really hear you and really welcome you into that?
So like advice to ourselves.
Whatever it is that comes up when you look in that mirror about what you want to, what needs to be reflected most to you. You look in the mirror and you say, look at me now. Whether it's this is what I've overcome, or this is where I'm going, or this is what I feel to be most true and most powerful about me right now, because the future is listening. And the past is there to inform. And you are the most powerful person in this room to make the decision about what comes next from where we are right now. So I'm going to offer you the opportunity to take that inward gaze and say, look at me now, out loud. Natalie.
Honestly, the first thing that comes up to me is the fact that I managed to pack for 5 people. Every trip that we go on, I pack for everyone.
Natalie, I'm so proud of
you. For everyone.
We're so proud of you.
And I start days in advance.
No.
And I have like piles on the table of everything because I freak out because I'm not good at it, but I've become better. So the fact that that I've had to become responsible for so many people in the family, and everyone looks to me to make sure that there's underwear and toothbrushes and toothpaste.
And deodorant.
Yeah. And, and it's
eyeliner.
like, I can't believe that I've managed to reach that point where I'm the person. They don't know that Amy, Molly, and Lex were the people. My family, they don't know. And Ron still gets really mad at me because I'll always forget a charger, or, there's something that's not, because I'm so focused on the kids and other stuff that I'm like, you bring the chargers, Yeah. But like I've grown and I've evolved and I've become a responsible person, and I pack for my family, and I take a lot of shit from the family, and I wake up every morning ready to become an even better mom and teach my kids about respect and kindness and generosity. And and love, and I work on yelling less, and I work on being more patient. But sometimes I go to bed and I think, holy shit, like I put up with a lot. And I give a lot. And I don't know that I take in as much as I should, which is why when we do something like this or tomorrow night or any breakfast or anything, that's when I fill myself up with what I need, the self-care. I don't get it from the kids really or from my husband most of the time. I mean, it's from my friends. It's different.
Yeah. Preach.
It's different.
Preach. Take us to church.
Yeah, so I can pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Great. I love it.
Wow.
Not that it matters what we think with the clapping, because this is all about you.
We're just in awe.
We're in full support. Yes, girl.
Yeah.
Amy.
I mean, I think I kind of lost my train of thought while I was, I mean, I'm just wow. I mean,
in awe of Nat.
Yeah. I mean, I think I identify with many things that you like, okay, just, getting up every day and trying to do all the things even when you don't think you can. You feel like maybe you haven't failed, but you're not successful in all the areas. But it's like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Like, just having Molly in the car with me this morning and taking the boys to school. And usually she wouldn't be in the car with us, even if she met us at the school for a performance or whatever. And so I was, trying, just like we had to wake up and be excited and whatever. And I'm
firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I didn't sleep very much the last couple nights. And, it was just so funny because normally Trina, a girlfriend of ours who's not here.
Part of our crew.
Yes, part of our crew. And she wakes up, she's like, I call her Tigger, or like a bunny in the morning. Like she's such a morning person.
Bright-eyed, bouncy.
And
yeah,
she's so cute.
Like it's so much energy that sometimes I'm like, okay, it's just, so this morning, literally Molly's like, okay, wow. Yeah, a lot of energy. You're pretty.
No, I said, okay, Trina, great job. Because there she was, we're driving and she's like telling the boys this and telling them that. And she's filling me in on this. And it was a lot of energy for me.
A lot of energy, but that's...
And I'm in the backseat next to Nicholas and I look at her in the rear view and I'm just like, okay, Trina, great job.
Yeah. And which, I mean, if it's like, I'm not...
Amy's not a morning person.
I'm not, I mean, it has nothing... excuse me. It has nothing to do with sleep. that's not my time. It's not my... But my point is that as a mother... You just commit and
then you get it, girl. You get it.
Get it because you want it. And you get it. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, now we have to tell that story. Well, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to be somewhere at some point. I do too, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the point is that I guess was an example or display of like my commitment as a mother, that I'm just like, you know what? We're doing it. We're going to make this happen. I'm not really awake. I'm not thinking clearly. I don't know what's going on with my voice, but we're doing it. Let's do it. Let's get it. Right?
That's
so I don't know. I guess that's what I have to say to my future. Just get it.
And that's where you're headed.
Get it. Get it, girl. Get it.
And you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to make it happen for you.
Yeah.
Gonna make it happen.
Do, do, do.
Go ahead, Emil. You up.
You also were a dancer.
Added to the list.
That's one of the first ones, though.
That was the very first one.
That's true.
My mom said before I even started acting, she's like, the very first thing you ever did was you'd say, I'm putting on music and I am going to dance for you.
Dance the night away. I thought you were going to say my mom said before I ever walked.
I mean, who knows? It might have been. I'm sure that I was shaking.
You probably
what
did.
My mama gave me.
Probably did.
Oh my God. Yeah. So good.
I could even vocalize. Go for it,
Okay,
Emil.
guru.
Oh my gosh. I don't know about that. So it's a little bit similar to Amy. I'll just share that, I think the first half of my life and probably into undergrad, there was a lot of, there was kind of this half-assedness about who I was and what I was doing. And I could tell you the deeper, darker pieces of why that is. Not that it's that dark, but just psychologically, emotionally, what was happening for me at a young age. But there was always this kind of lackadaisical thing about like, I'll get around to it, or like, oh, okay, my grades aren't that great, but they're okay. They're, it's enough to, still do okay in school. And it was about applying myself and about really putting the time and the energy in to invest in myself. And so it wasn't until when I went to grad school, and I always told myself, when I go to grad school, if I go to grad school, I'm going to want it so badly that I can taste it, and I'm going to show up in a way that I never have before, which I did. And so, but I realized that there's still sometimes the old voices of like, yeah, you kind of half-assed this, or maybe, we stick our heads in the sand around, a variety of different things at different times. And so for me, as I'm looking ahead and being newly 50, the 50, which
whoop, whoop.
I'm not the only one in the group at that age, but I'm on the newer end of that age, I guess, for the rest of these younger girls. And as much as we can have all kinds of ideas around age and what we're supposed to do or not do, there's a part of me that realizes I have to, the strength that I have used to get through grad school and become a licensed therapist and build a practice and love what I do and be present to all these people that I love in my life and my nieces and my nephews is I'm making my dreams come true. That's still happening. And I know I have the power to do that. And as much as sometimes I want to fall back on like that old kind of default around, I don't know, or, maybe I'm slower about going about things than I wished I were. I still have the power to do it. And so.
And you're doing it.
I'm doing it. And a lot of that is about speaking and just stepping out into a bigger audience and bigger way of reaching people, along with other amazing dreams that I hold for myself. So yeah, I'm doing it. I think that's what it is.
Again, back to the Golden Bachelor. It's just, there is no timeline on love and on possibility.
Yeah.
There just isn't. And I think that could be a huge takeaway message.
Yeah. And part of that is finding partnership, finding that partner, that man that I will share my life with, that I know is right here around the corner. So just for some people, claiming that as well.
Well, I will wrap up for me by saying that something that I've been really working with recently is this idea of people believing in me. And having people like you in my life who so deeply believe in me, and then feeling like there are people in my life who I need to believe in me and haven't quite found that yet, haven't locked in on that. And it would change, certain areas of my life feel really, really full and really, really lush because so many people believe in me. And then there are other areas of my life where I feel like the reason that it isn't flourishing is because I haven't found what I need to find in terms of, the people, places, things that I need to believe in me in order to thrive. And I'm using the opportunity of the message of look at me now to go, no, the only person you need to believe in you is yourself.
That's what I was going to ask you.
So that is, in this moment, me turning the mirror on myself and saying, the only one in the room that matters is you, my love.
Yeah.
I love you, girls.
And then you get to be the energy and let the universe do the rest. I said, we're going to do the get it, girl, get it. And I'll tell you where that came from. So many moons ago, Amy and I were driving down the very jammed 405 freeway, trying to get to the airport to catch flights somewhere. And we were in her hot little car.
What were we?
We were in the Spider. Oh, yes, we were.
Were we?
We were in your little Spider, hot little car.
I thought it was more
No, it wasn't.
It was that long ago, is what we're saying.
It was a long time ago. We were not speeding because we were in traffic.
Because we weren't moving.
But in a hot little car, and we were hot little numbers, just going down that 405. And it was a lovely day. So we had the windows cracked down.
Or you had the top off.
Well,
enjoying the smog.
Lovely day makes me think of the Bill Withers song, which we used to love to listen to.
We sure did. We sure did. But don't you derail me.
Okay. Keep going,
the windows were cracked. It was a lovely day. And all of a sudden, we hear a growling noise from a car that seems to be right next to us. Mm-hmm. And I look over, and there is, for lack of better phrasing, and just not because I'm being judgy wudgy was a bear, but just because I want you to get the sense of what was next to me in like the most visceral way. A very creepy man driving in a car next to us, slightly growling.
Was it a truck?
Slightly growling. He was in a truck. Yes. He was absolutely in a truck.
He was.
And his windows were also slightly down. And he inched up, and the next thing I know, we were side by side. And he was definitely not looking at the road. I mean, he was just
thank God he wasn't
clocking
really
us
moving
dead
because
on.
he was,
Well,
staring at the girls.
no. As where the cars are inching forward, he is just right in time with us, continuing to growl. And the next thing I know, he rolls down his window. All my insides tighten. I'm like, what is about to happen?
But you're
here?
like don't want to look.
And I'm mouthing to Amy, something is happening with the growling guy on my right. And the next thing I know, Amy and I look over, and he is full on out the window like a dog panting out the window and goes, "You get it, girls, you get it."
Gross.
And then didn't he follow up with, or no, we added in over the years in making light of it. You know you want it. Get it.
I honestly, I think I flopped out, whether that came from him or came from us trying to heal ourselves from the
he
experience.
was dead serious.
I forgot about this story, but we always will be like, "Get it, girl, get it."
No, that's when it started. And
That's where she started.
Literally, like he was being serious as though we were drooling over him. And he's like, "Yeah, you want it."
As if we were on OnlyFans or something, which did not exist at that time.
Well, yeah, I don't even.
So on that note, we'll put a ribbon on this podcast.
Oh, get it. That was kind of mine, right?
Yeah.
Is that how get it?
Gonna get
Yeah.
it.
Oh.
Well, sure.
Okay, girls.
Well, sure.
Let's all just get it.
Let's just get it.
Let's get it.
Everybody out there, just go get it.
Get it. Pack it. Get it.
Get it. Get it.
You know you want it.
You know you want it.
Get
People
it.
out there, you just go get it. All right. Well, that is Look at Me Now. This has been an epic podcast. I will be bringing these ladies back time and time again because this is my ride or die posse.
This time.
Ride or die posse here.
I love you, girls. Love you so much.
Maybe next time we'll have, even the extended family as part of this.
I mean.
But also the rest of our crew, because we're not complete.
Yeah.
Of course.
But the rest of the family, or the way you said extended family, made it
I
sound
just
like
mean,
it was,
no. I just mean the those who could not be here today.
the rest of us.
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
Correct. Do you see we could just go on and on? Do you see how we don't stop talking?
We just don't stop talking. Yeah.
So somebody's going to need to cut the mic. Cut mic. Boop. Bye, y'all. Join us for Look at Me Now, wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to share, like, and subscribe.